Welcome to my channel Art Book Nook. My name is Kay and I review art and craft books. Do you ever wish you could capture more light and vibrancy in your art? Well, Haidee-Jo's book will show you exactly how to do that. This book is perfect for anyone who is a beginner to painting in oils, or for the more experienced artist, or if you're just curious and would like to know more about Haidee-Jo Summers and her beautiful and modern impressionistic style. Her book is packed with stunning examples of her artwork, expert advice and practical painting techniques, together with step-by-step demonstrations and instructions. It is exceptionally well written and structured. Haidee-Jo Summers is an award-winning professional artist specialising in gardens, landscapes and seascapes. She's written 2 books about oil painting, Vibrant Oils, which I'm reviewing here, and Plein Air Painting with Oils. I'll review that one for you another time, but for now, let's take a look inside. We have a foreword written by internationally acclaimed artist David Curtis, praising Haidee-Jo for her memorable work, and throughout this book you'll find beautiful reproductions of Haidee-Jo's paintings. They're sure to inspire you. In the introduction, Haidee-Jo states the information in her book is easily transferable to other subjects and media. But if you've never dipped a brush in oil paint before, there are simple projects to get you started. As well as covering painting techniques and lessons, Haidee-Jo will also tell you about her life as a full-time artist and says the only failure is to not try at all, and that progress is often 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and she encourages you to try your best and just enjoy the learning process. If you've painted with oils or another medium before, you'll probably have everything you'll need. But if you're just getting started, Haidee-Jo provides a brief overview of the materials you'll require. As you develop your art practice, you'll develop your own preferences. Here Haidee-Jo covers brushes, painting surfaces, palettes, thinners and other tools. In the description below, I have linked to another 4-minute video on YouTube where Haidee-Jo talks about her favourite oil painting brushes. Haidee-Jo believes beauty can be found everywhere, and what inspires one artist will not interest another. Whilst she was painting in Venice, she was inspired to paint her fellow artist Felicity House, as she loved the way Felicity looked against the dark doorway and thought the rim of her hat looked like a halo. Felicity House is a wonderful pastel artist and uses watercolour and ink in her work as well. Painting requires a different way of seeing. You're not painting objects or things, you're painting a jigsaw of interlocking shapes and colours. I think this is a really helpful way of simplifying what it is you think you see. When choosing a subject to paint, Haidee-Jo strongly recommends selecting something that inspires you and sparks your interest. If you're painting something that bores you, the chances are your painting will be boring too. Haidee-Jo is usually drawn to something because of the effect of light, such as light on water. The next few pages cover practical techniques for working with oil paint, such as preparing the paint, cleaning your brush, how to prepare thin paint, using medium and mixing with the palette knife. And Haidee-Jo also explains why you should never paint over oil paint with acrylics. However, you can use oil paint over acrylics. Haidee-Jo cannot express the importance of sketching and drawing enough, and explains why she considers this essential if you are to develop your skill as an artist, and sees the ability to draw as a pathway to freedom. In the image on the left, she has blocked in a complicated scene with just 3 values of light and dark by studying and simplifying the shapes, and she encourages you to practice this technique. There are several different ways you can sketch. Haidee-Jo explains the 3 main methods: contour, gesture and tonal value sketching, the latter being the method she generally uses. I wonder if the sketch illustrated in this book helped Haidee-Jo to paint this beautiful painting of hers called Hazel's Garden. When sketching in preparation for a studio painting, make as many notes as possible to aid your memory later, such as colours, sounds, weather, even conversations you may overhear. How did you feel in the moment? Haidee-Jo recommends getting into the habit of sketching every day, even for a few minutes, as this will have a profound impact on your painting and observational skills. Alla Prima means at the first stroke or all at once, and is a useful technique for catching the fleeting passage of light where speed is necessary. Over the following pages, Haidee-Jo will show you simple exercises to get you used to working with oil paint straight away, and will teach you how to be decisive about putting the paint down. In this first exercise, the aim is to get you used to covering the canvas with a single layer of paint by placing loaded brush marks side by side in a mosaic effect and avoiding applying paint on top of paint. A simple still life is a good place to start. Haidee-Jo includes lots of hints and tips of how to prepare for your painting before you actually begin. She lists the materials and tools you'll need and advises you to set a time limit so you're not tempted to fuss and fiddle. Here is an excellent step-by-step example of Haidee-Jo's own progress. She lists the timings of her own painting after 7 minutes, 14 minutes and so on. I think this is an excellent exercise and a very clever way of presenting it. This second exercise aims to teach you how to identify which parts of a scene are the most important by restricting the number of brushstrokes you are allowed to make. In Haidee-Jo's example, she has used the same still life and produced her painting in just 20 brushstrokes. Sometimes what you leave out is as important as what you add in. The white flowers are absent in this second example, as Haidee-Jo felt they were less important than the other parts. Remember, these are just practice exercises to help you develop your painting techniques. Haidee-Jo encourages you to push yourself and practice these challenges. And here are 2 more examples of Haidee-Jo's own practice pieces. This brings us to a very important chapter, composition and planning. Every painting requires an underlying structure to hold all the elements together. In Haidee-Jo's painting, Washing Day in Venice, the post on the left stops your eye from leaving the painting. The dark gap just before the large sheet on the right does the same thing and leads your eye down to the stone edge of the second arch, where it's then led along the dark waterline and back to the post on the left-hand side and around again. When looking at this painting for the first time, would you have been aware of this? Everything in this painting has been planned and considered. Here is a checklist to help you plan a successful painting. Things to consider and work out before your brush touches the canvas. Haidee-Jo says, failure to plan is to plan to fail. Paintings that are pleasing to the eye are thought to follow the rule of thirds or the golden mean. Here Haidee-Jo explains the difference between the 2 methodologies, using her beautiful painting Evening Light Red Sail as an example. She encourages you to study other paintings, which will help you understand what makes a successful design. Cropping a scene can help you to produce a more pleasing composition. In the example of the 2 vases of flowers, the cropped image is much more pleasing and does away with the vast expanse of background which is dull and boring. Using a viewfinder or the zoom function on your camera can help you to find a better composition. Haidee-Jo provides you with several tips to help you plan a strong composition and advises trying to imagine your painting as a whole piece before you put your brush to the canvas. Notan is a Japanese word for describing the harmony between light and dark. Here Haidee-Jo explains how to create a notan study as an aid to good composition. Compare the photograph of a fish market on the left-hand page to the simple notan study on the right-hand page. In this chapter, Haidee-Jo will teach you the importance of values. I'm sure you've all heard the saying, value does all the work and colour gets the credit. Just look at this beautiful painting by Haidee-Jo called California Flowers. Here Haidee-Jo explains how to create a value scale and how to judge the tonal value of the local colour of an object, such as the peach-coloured dress the young lady in the painting is wearing, in relation to the light conditions. Compare the two circles bottom right. The first is what we call the local colour of the dress, and the second circle illustrates the tonal values used to paint the shadow areas. Haidee-Jo explains how to create impact in your paintings by selecting the correct tonal value. In her painting Against the Light Staithes, we know the cabin of the boat is white, but that's not the way we see it when we're looking into the light and the cabin is in shadow. Haidee-Jo states, "You must not let your brain interfere with interpreting what it is you are seeing." When you consider the design of a painting, it's important to think about the range of tonal values and to try and simplify the subject into 3 or 6. The pie chart on this page for the painting called The Fort and the pie chart for the glow allotments on the following page represent the tonal proportions used in each painting. Our eyes are always drawn to the lightest lights and darkest darks, but they need to be used sparingly to ensure certain areas have the maximum impact. In choosing a colour palette, Haidee-Jo explains the 4 main characteristics of colour and warns us that our developed brain has an unconscious bias of what it is you think you see in front of you. As an artist, we must learn to think and question what we see. Let's admire Haidee-Jo's stunning painting of the horses called Gathered. Now look closely. Have you ever seen a purple and pink horse? Creating your own colour wheel is a very useful exercise and helps you to really understand the paints in your palette and learn how to mix colour. An excellent project is to create many colour wheels using different combinations of the 3 primaries and warm and cool colours. Haidee-Jo emphasises the importance of neutral colours in a painting, stating it is uncommon for you to need a pure green straight from the tube. To desaturate colour, add a tiny bit of its complementary colour on the colour wheel. Here is Haidee-Jo's typical colour palette. She's listed all the colours for you and her preferred manufacturers. If you're inexperienced when it comes to colour mixing, Haidee-Jo recommends starting with a limited palette. Several of the old masters, such as Anders Zorn, only ever used a limited colour palette. He used just 4 colours: white, yellow ochre, vermilion and ivory black. The advantage of restricting the number of tube colours is you are more likely to achieve colour harmony in your painting and avoid mixing mud. In the description below, I've put a bonus link to a short video of artist John Potoshnik explaining the advantages of using a limited palette. John is a living master of colour mixing. In the 1840s, the invention of the metal paint tube by John Gough Rand was revolutionary and enabled artists to paint outside instead of being cooped up inside a studio. The invention gave us all the Impressionists, Turner and Sorolla, who used to say, "The studio is a good place to smoke your pipe." Haidee-Jo shares her love of painting en plein air, which is the French term meaning in the open air, and explains why it's the backbone of all her art. Some excellent advice here from Haidee-Jo about the challenges involved when painting outdoors, the weather being just one of them. She explains when, what and how to paint outdoors and has provided a handy checklist of tools and equipment and some transportation tips. Painting equipment can be heavy, and apparently Monet used a pram to wheel his equipment about. 6 years ago, wow, how time flies, I was a wild card in Sky Art's Landscape Artist of the Year. This is my setup. I took everything with me but the kitchen sink. I was so inexperienced, a complete novice, a complete noddy. Note the umbrella and the rain mat hanging off the back of my trolley in case it rained. I don't know what I would have done really because I was painting in pastels. Bonkers. When painting en plein air, Haidee-Jo restricts herself to a maximum of 2 hours and sets an alarm on her phone. After 2 hours, everything in the scene will have changed. Partly owing to the time limit, and also for transportation, she limits herself to canvases that are 8 by 10 inches or 16 by 20 inches. On the right-hand page is a detailed step-by-step time illustration of Haidee-Jo's stunning painting called Blue Carrot Shed. I've put a link in the description below to where you can also buy a DVD of Haidee-Jo creating this exact painting, plus there are several other scenes on the DVD too. I have a copy myself and I highly recommend it, as Haidee-Jo explains her thinking process throughout. Haidee-Jo believes oils are very much overlooked as a sketching medium and considers a sketch to be a rough unfinished drawing or painting to assist in making a more finished painting in the studio. Knowing the sketch is only for your own personal reference gives you a wonderful sense of freedom. Here are further examples of several of Haidee-Jo's oil sketches and a list of ideas for where you can begin to sketch in oils. When sketching in oils on plein air, you need to travel light, so Haidee-Jo has provided you with a list of recommended equipment. Haidee-Jo likes to include figures in her paintings wherever possible, as they instantly give the scene a sense of scale and depth, and it also makes it easy for the viewer to imagine themselves in the space. So where do you begin? Haidee-Jo suggests you think of figures as a collection of shapes and colours and patterns of light and dark. A common mistake is to paint the scene and add the figures at the end, but this only serves to make them appear to be stuck on and detached. Capturing figures that are constantly in motion can be a challenge, but Haidee-Jo reminds us once again to think of figures just as simple shapes. You might wish to take a photograph, but this can be a false friend as they tend to capture too much detail. The only time facial details are necessary would be if you were painting a portrait. And here are several tips for painting figures and for painting them to scale. Haidee-Jo now demonstrates step by step in a lot of detail how to capture a busy cafe scene. Just wait until you see her beautiful painting at the end. Haidee-Jo tells us she appreciates she's fortunate in that painting is her full-time job, so she has the luxury of being able to paint outdoors whenever she chooses. If your only choice is to use photographs as your reference, Haidee-Jo shares some advice and tips for you in this chapter. To avoid being a slave to the photograph and your painting becoming too detailed and tight, you can make some preparatory studies from the photograph itself, such as thumbnail studies, no-tan, a tonal value plan or a colour study. You can also create a series of paintings from a single photograph using different aspects. Paintings of portraits have always held a fascination for Haidee-Jo, and this chapter serves as a brief introduction to the subject through Haidee-Jo's current methods. And there's a quote from John Singer Sargent, the master of portraiture: "Every time I paint a portrait, I lose a friend." Haidee covers whom and what to draw, how to position your model, establishing marks and adding colour. And over the next few pages we have a very detailed step-by-step demonstration from Haidee-Jo how she approaches and paints a portrait, fully illustrated with lots of photographs. At the beginning of this book, Haidee-Jo stated that she generally prefers to work with an Alla Prima approach, which is starting and finishing a painting in the same session. However, you can achieve a lot more by building up a painting in layers. This might include effects such as transparent glazes and scrumbling. Painting in the studio means you have the luxury of time, something that's absent when working outside. Here is a fabulous step-by-step demonstration from Haidee-Jo of how she's created a beautiful painting called Redwings Coming Ashore, based on the layering technique, once again accompanied with lots of detailed and wonderful photographs. The still life can easily be arranged at home and provides the opportunity to paint directly from life. Haidee-Jo encourages you to think beyond a vase of flowers and consider painting a mantelpiece, bookcase, or the contents of a cupboard. Whenever I think of the contents of a cupboard, it always reminds me of the hilariously funny condiment sketch by Michael McIntyre. It never fails to make me laugh no matter how many times I watch it. You can check it out in my bonus links in the description below. At the beginning of her book, Haidee-Jo discussed the importance of values in a painting in order to capture the illusion of light. She suggests a good practice is to select one window in your home and observe the effect of light on the view outside at different times of day and different seasons. What colours and values would you choose to paint the scene? Here Haidee-Jo shares how she captured the halo of light around the hair of the young girl in her painting called Donkey Ride. Here Haidee-Jo explains how she might approach different types of light, such as contre-jour, front light, directional light, overcast light, reflected light, and artificial light at night time. And let's not forget the golden hour. This is a brief time of day just before sunset or sunrise, when everything is tinted by a lovely warm glow of orange or pink. The effect is fleeting, so you need to work very quickly, which is when an oil sketch is handy to capture colour notes. You will never capture the exact same effect or colours with a camera. In this chapter, Haidee-Jo explains how to choose a tonal key for your painting. A tonal key is the term used to describe the range of tonal values. High key paintings are generally bright and sunny. Think of Monet's haystacks or Soroya's beach scenes. Whilst low key paintings are often moody or mysterious, like Rembrandt's portraits. A mid-value key can represent a foggy or a dull day. In this final demonstration in Haidee-Jo's incredible book, she'll show you how to take an original scene and transpose the tonal values to capture a completely different light effect. A fun exercise of your own might be to take a painting and transpose it into a nocturne, or a sunny landscape and transpose it into a wintry snow scene. Here is Haidee-Jo's original painting, and here is the finished painting in a different tonal key. And here they are side by side. Quite amazing, isn't it? Haidee-Jo is extremely talented. And here Haidee-Jo shares two more of her incredible paintings. I think they're both absolutely beautiful. On the left-hand side we have Evening Light, Polperro Harbour, which is a large studio painting that Haidee-Jo describes as low-key. And on the right-hand page we have Ken's Veg, Ludham, and this painting can be described as high-key because the largest areas of the painting are taken up by the colours at the higher end of the tonal value scale. This captures the upbeat bright sunlight on that warm day. Haidee-Jo states there is a lot of misconception about the colour grey. Including colourful greys in your paintings will really make the adjacent colours sing. And desaturating or greying down a colour is how you describe distance and aerial perspective in a landscape. Here Haidee-Jo explains how to mix beautiful colourful greys to use in your paintings. If we study the painting called Fisherman's Shelter on the right-hand page, notice how even the colours of the bright bunting of the Union Jack have been desaturated, as have the colours of the walls in the interior. Our eye is drawn to the window and the bright blue sea beyond. The addition of the vase of bright yellow daffodils also helps to draw our eye to the window and the view. I think this painting is an excellent example of how talented and accomplished an artist Haidee-Jo is. I absolutely love this painting. I'd love to hang it on my own wall at home. You can use lost and found edges in a painting to guide the viewer's eye. Where there is a hard edge with strong tonal contrast, our eye will jump to that part of the painting first. If you paint with only hard edges, the viewer won't know where to look. Here Haidee-Jo explains the difference between a hard edge, a soft edge, a broken edge and a lost edge, and where you might use them in your paintings. Wow, wow, wow. What can I say about this painting called The Sentinel? Look how the light just absolutely glows from the painting. On this page, Haidee-Jo talks about finding your own voice and says that we all have artists whose work we admire, but if we copy them, we will only ever be a poor imitation. So what do you think the subject is in this fantastic painting? Haidee-Jo asks you, is it a painting about Brussels sprouts or a plastic bottle on a stick? The answer is no. The real subject here is the light, and it's a subject that Haidee-Jo never tires of, and it combines two of her greatest painting pleasures, which is allotments and snow. I think it's breathtaking. I'm a sucker for snow pictures, as my regulars to my channel will know, and the light is just shining from this picture. Stunning. To help you find your own voice, Haidee-Jo has listed 12 starting points to get you going. For example, I'm going to paint the sky at sunset on a small panel every day for 2 weeks, whatever the weather. And here are some more examples of Haidee-Jo's beautiful artwork. Just look how Haidee-Jo has captured the bright light bouncing off the roof of the greenhouse. We've now reached the final pages of Haidee-Jo's incredible book. She hopes you are inspired by her method of working and will try out the many different approaches she has shared. She asks you not to allow your fear of failure or pursuit of perfectionism to hold you back. You should only compare your paintings to your own earlier attempts and not to other artists, especially professional artists who are painting virtually every day. Well, what can I say? I cannot praise Haidee-Jo's book highly enough. The content and detail contained in this book are as good as taking a workshop with Haidee-Jo in person. There are 176 pages in this book, and the colour reproductions throughout are just beautiful and printed on good quality paper. And whilst this book is a paperback, the pages are stitched together so the book will lay flat when opened out. This book is more than a nice to have, it's an investment in your development as an artist, and the techniques shared by Haidee-Jo are just as applicable to other mediums such as acrylic, watercolour and pastels. So what do you think? Are you inspired by Haidee-Jo's beautiful art? I would love to know, so please leave me a message in the comments. I do reply to every one. In the description below, I've added links to where you can purchase your own copy of this wonderful book and Haidee-Jo's DVDs. There are notes about Haidee-Jo Summers and her art, links to her website and social media pages, and several links to interviews with Haidee-Jo which are well worth watching. Oh, and don't forget the bonus links too. I hope you found my review helpful. If you did, please give this video a like. It helps YouTube promote my channel to other people who are interested in art books. I try and post a new art book review every single week, so if you'd like to see more reviews from me, please subscribe to my channel. I'd really appreciate it. And if you found this review helpful, please leave me a comment below. I do reply to all comments. And if there's an art book that you'd like to see, let me know and I will do my best to review it for you. So thank you for watching, and until next time, happy painting.